for Black girl nerds.
Yeah, we doing virtual interviews now, so I had to like step up the setup.
Spice it up. Heard you. How's you doing? How's it going?
I'm doing well. I watched the movie last night, and it sparked so many emotions for me, especially with this current day and age. So I really got angry. And so I just want to know, what type of mental state do you even have to get in to do a movie like this, especially with, this current day and age? Like, you have to really put your mind in a slave. So I want to know, what does that bother your mental state, and what type of mentality you even have to be in?
Yeah, listen, I'm a big proponent for mental health, especially with Black folks, and Black men. We've been brought up, for generations now, to hide our feelings, to not be, in touch with our emotions, and getting in touch with my emotions was very crucial to play this part. Leading up to the movie, there was just a lot of transformations that had to happen. If you're going to play a slave, you got to look the part. So there's physical stuff that had to go into it. I'm running literally for the shoot was a little over 40 days. I want to say 46 days. And it was just me running miles every single day. So I was doing cardio before the movie. I was running like 10 miles every other day. I think I was doing like two half marathons every week before I started shooting the film. So that's just a physical transformation. But then, when you think of listen, we live in the 21st century. Like, there's nothing you could do to yourself today that would feel like being a slave in terms of preparation. The only preparation I could do is if I could kill somebody and, went to prison for murder for the rest of my life. Like, that's the closest it gets being a slave. But what I did do was I tried to study, people who had gone through, like a lot of trauma and just post-traumatic stress, what that does on the body, and or people who had, suffered real abuse as a child growing up, because Shields, the character I play, he was born into slavery. That's all he's known. So the little things that you pick up on, obviously there's no real video of Shields. He was born in a time where there were no pictures or video, so I can't watch video and see how he walked or how he talked. But I just tried to piece that together from different things, like people who've been through, trauma as children. They either have a speech impediment or they speak in broken up sentences, which Frederick Douglass, who met Shields in his autobiography, Frederick Douglass described him as, a man of very few words, and you always felt his presence, but he spoke in a very broken, very slow and broken down manner. So you hear that, you go, ooh, what can I do with that? And then, post-traumatic stress, people who've gone through that, they don't make a lot of good eye contact. So little things like that, and trying to piece the character together. So it was a lot of stuff. And then just for my mental health, like, I used to laugh at actors, who would say, oh, it took me a while to shake that character off. I'd be like, yo, what are you talking about, bro? Like,
really?
Go to In-N-Out, get a burger, you be back to yourself in no time, right? But like this role, like a month after filming, I had nightmares that I was being chased in my dreams. Like, I'd wake up like sweating because I was still I felt like they were chasing me, in my dreams. It's because like on set, when you do all these things on set, you don't know, but that stuff sneaks into your subconscious, So yeah, after I had to, get into meditating more, I had to change my diet a little bit, and like, listening to all these different sonic sounds and I'm going to sleep to try to get back to myself. So this is the first experience I had with like, finding it difficult to shake a character off after filming.
See, you made fun of those actors.
I did. And I want to say I'm sorry to those actors. I feel your pain now. I understand. Yeah.
And with this movie, after I watched it, I actually like Googled and researched Shields Green. It's only so much limited information you could find about him. Because after I watched the movie, I'm like, why didn't I know this? Like, why didn't they teach this in school and stuff like that? Yeah. He ignited a whole, basically helped free the slaves in a sense. And I'm like, why do you feel like this movie, clearly he's a big part of our culture, our history. Why do you feel like this type of things are not taught in schools when we're taught on, Black History Month, or we only get the same people, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King? Right. Why don't we ever find out about these type of people that actually helped history as well?
Right. I think it's a complicated question, honestly. And you make a good point. You know, I'm originally of Nigerian descent, and even in Nigeria, when I was growing up initially, I moved to America when I was 15. I'm 32 now, so technically I've lived in America longer than I lived in Nigeria. But that's a different question for another day. But yeah, we learned about, you know, the Martin Luther Kings, the Rosa Parks, the you know, the Malcolm X's. But you know, these little characters that I think are just as impactful sometimes get lost in the sauce. You know what I'm saying? Because they were the ones who lit the spark that eventually a Martin Luther King could take that torch and do big things with it. Malcolm X could take the torch and do big things. But there were little dominoes along the way, these little interesting people that had these little interesting stories that, you know, I mean, people call the raid on Harper's Ferry the dress rehearsal for the Civil War. You know what I mean? So it's like, and sometimes, you know, when I talk to other fellow Black people who are like, "Oh, bro, another slave movie, man, are we tired of these?" And I'm like, you know, there are times where I used to feel that way, but at the same time, there are little stories that we don't know about. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not to beat you over the head with the slave narrative, but it's to show you the slave narrative in a new way. You know, one of the reasons why I chose to do this film was because there isn't a white savior complex in the film. There's no white man that just, you know, Shields frees himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, he took matters into his own hands and he got himself to freedom. Now he does run into John Brown, which is a true story. I mean, he met John Brown and chose to do the raid on Harper's Ferry, and John Brown was a white man, but it was a decision that he made. I think
Yeah.
some of the times when we watch all these other depictions of slavery, like 12 Years a Slave or something, Brad Pitt got to come through to save us. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like white people don't have their own agency, you know, and sorry, Black people don't have their own agency, their own stories. And so, yes, it is a slave story, and there's some tropes in there that you've seen before. But what I do love is that we have a protagonist in our story that's in charge of his own journey, and he makes his own decisions over the course of the film. And it's a story about not taking shit. I'm sorry, it's a story about,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I'm not taking it any. When you fed up, you fed up. And I think, you know, you look at the climate right now. We actually shot the movie in 2018, and I remember when we're making it then, I thought, man, I don't know if this is going to be. I mean, it's an interesting story and it's a new story and something people haven't seen before. But do people really want to see this? Like, is it relevant? Boy, was I wrong, because we're in 2020, and you know, Black Lives Matter is everything. You know, so yeah, I find it very very timely right now at the same time. So
Well,
yeah, people should know
also,
about
with that being said, with our current climate of America right now, do you think this would ignite more anger from both sides, from anger, hurt? Because seeing this, it literally makes you mad all over again.
Right. I think, you know, it's complicated. Sometimes I think America has a problem with history. I think America has two different histories, right?
Yeah.
Black people have a history of, well, what they think American history is, and a majority of white people have what they think American history is. You know, and it is just it's our history, plain and simple. You know what I'm saying? And if it makes you mad, my thing is, I think anger without an outlet is just a waste of energy. So if you watch this movie and you feel angry, you feel that rage, put it into something, you know, progressive. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it about the movie that makes you mad? Where are you today? And how can this movie push you to do something that you wouldn't usually do, you know, which is to vote, to get more involved in your local community politics. You know what I'm saying? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, reparations is a big conversation that's happening again right now. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, if this movie incites people to be more vocal with their local governors or, you know, senators about reparations and trying to make that a real thing, then yeah, let's do that. But my thing is, like, if you're gonna protest for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Don't just be out there making noise. So yeah, it makes you angry, but you know, turn that anger into something productive. You know, anger
And
is
also,
good.
And also, when I looked up Shields Green last night and researched, he actually was hanged to death. In the movie,
Yeah.
it shows a different ending. But when I looked it up, when him and John Brown actually both were killed, they was caught
Right.
at the Harper's Ferry, and they both were sentenced to death. So why did the movie, I guess, change the ending or the movie, or what actually happened? Because I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, like he got his son free. Like,
so
what made you think they actually changed the true ending of the story?
So this movie was really the love child of Reggie Hudlin and Mark Ammon, and what they were trying to accomplish was something along the lines of Once Upon a Time in America, or like the movie Inglourious Bastards with Brad Pitt, you know, where they, at the end of the movie, they kill Hitler, which is not how how Hitler died. It's like a wish fulfillment type of a movie. But what we do at the end, because if you ultimately narratively in the movie, the way it's structured, it's his son's fantasy of what happened. You know, it's Tommy's telling of the story. You know, Tommy's like a kid who, you know, when his father left, he never saw his father again. You know, it's believed Shields Green had a son. So that was the way into the story. You know, it's not a history lesson is what I try to tell people. That's not what Mark and Reggie were trying to do. What they were trying to do was they were trying to make a wish fulfillment movie in the veins of, you know, Inglourious Bastards, how Hitler is killed at the end of the movie, or in Django Unchained, you know, or Pan's Labyrinth, which was a movie that Guillermo del Toro made about the Holocaust through the eyes of a little girl, and she creates this fantasy in her mind. So over the course of the movie, you see Tommy reading the papers, and Tommy's like envisioning what he thinks is going on with his father. But after the credits roll, we show what the real history was with the documents to show that Shields Green was captured with all that. So because at the end of the movie, well, I guess I shouldn't give the spoilers, but Tommy's Tommy's character in the movie goes into a publisher, and the publisher asks him about, oh my gosh, is all this true? And he kind of is like a wink to the camera. He's, you know, it's like it is to me. So it's like he's created a mythology of who his father was. It's kind of like what they were trying to accomplish. But that's why they were adamant about putting at the end of the movie the credits that, you know, he gave his life ultimately for what had happened. And then there's also a part of the movie where Shields dives into the water, and then it becomes a little bit surreal. That was kind of where the fantasy began. You know what I'm saying? That's where the movie separates from reality to fantasy. So it's a very tight rope that the movie is walking, and that's why I try to tell people, like, this movie is definitely wish fulfillment. Think Quentin Tarantino's take on like history, that kind of a thing. But we still try to be as truthful to the characters as possible, meaning trying to play Shields as truthfully as possible, trying to play John Brown as truthfully as possible. That's the best I could do. Ultimately, I'm not the writer. You know, film is very much a director's medium, so I'll let Mark speak towards that, but I just tried to do the best job that I possibly could do.
Well, I definitely enjoyed the movie, even though it made me a little upset, but I definitely enjoyed the movie, and I appreciate you for speaking with me as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. All right. Take care.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.